Welcome to English Podcast. Whether you're here to immerse yourself in captivating tales, improve your language skills, or simply enjoy a good story, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore the world of storytelling together. Today, we're diving into the timeless classic, The Secret of the Hidden Key. This story brings up a lot of joy and adventure. With your listening practice and lots of new vocabulary, let's dive into it. Chapter 1. The Old Book. It was a hot summer afternoon when Maya climbed up the narrow wooden stairs into her grandfather's attic. Dust floated in the sunlight like tiny golden stars. The attic smelled of old paper, wood, and a little bit of mothballs. Maya liked this smell. It reminded her of secrets waiting to be discovered. Her grandfather, Mr. Sharma, was downstairs, sleeping in his rocking chair. He often told Maya,
"You never know what stories old things can tell you."
Maya brushed a cobweb away from her face and pulled out a heavy box. She sneezed loudly. Achoo! From below, she heard her grandfather's sleepy voice. "Find anything interesting, Maya?" "Grandpa, not yet," she shouted back, laughing. Inside the box were old photographs, yellowed letters, and broken toys. She was about to close it when something shiny caught her eye. A corner of leather, dark brown, almost black. She pulled it out. It was an old book, thick and heavy. The leather cover was cracked with age. On the front, there was a strange symbol, a circle with a key in the middle, surrounded by tiny stars. Maya's heart beat faster. This looks mysterious. She carefully opened the first page. The paper was rough and smelled ancient. The handwriting was in English, but not very easy to read. Still, she could understand some lines. "To the one who dares, follow the path of light and shadows. The key is hidden where silence speaks." Maya whispered to herself, "The key? Hidden? Silence speaks? What does that even mean?" She turned more pages. Most of the writing was notes about history, kings, wars, maps. But in the middle of the book there was a folded piece of parchment. She unfolded it carefully. Her eyes widened. It was a map. The map showed her own town. She recognized the river, the old church, and even the marketplace. But there were strange marks drawn in red ink. An X near the old church, a triangle near the river, and a circle in the forest outside town. "Wow," she whispered. "Is this a treasure map?" The next morning, Maya ran to her best friend Nick's house. Nick was sitting at his desk playing a computer game. "Nick!" Maya burst into the room without knocking. Nick jumped. "Maya, you scared me. What's the hurry?" Maya held out the book. "Look what I found in my grandfather's attic." Nick raised his eyebrows. "An old book?" "Not just any book," Maya said excitedly. "A book with a map and riddles. Look." They spread the book open on his desk. Nick adjusted his glasses and leaned closer. "The key is hidden where silence speaks," he read slowly. "That's the riddle," Maya said. "What do you think it means?" Nick thought for a moment. "Silence speaks. Maybe a library? Libraries are silent." Maya's eyes lit up. "Yes, that makes sense. And there's a mark near the old library on this map." They looked at each other, their hearts racing. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Maya asked. Nick sighed. "That we're going to the library?" Maya grinned. "Exactly." The library visit. The old town library was a large stone building with tall windows and a huge wooden door. Inside, it was cool and quiet. Rows of shelves stood like silent guards, filled with books of every size. The smell of paper and ink filled the air. Silence speaks here for sure, Nick whispered. They went to the history section, following the map carefully. On the map, the red X was drawn right next to the library. Maybe it's outside, Maya said. But just then, an elderly man with white hair and round glasses approached them. He was carrying a stack of books. "Excuse me," he said kindly. "Can I help you children with something?" Nick adjusted his glasses nervously. We're just looking." Maya, always braver, smiled. "Actually, sir, we found this old book. It has a map and some riddles. We think it might be connected to this library." The man's eyes widened as he looked at the book. "Where did you find this?" "In my grandfather's attic," Maya said. The man nodded slowly. "Interesting. Very interesting. My name is Professor Lewis. I study old legends and local history. And this," he gently touched the map, "this is something I have heard about before." Maya and Nick leaned closer. "You have?" Professor Lewis lowered his voice. "There are stories about a hidden treasure in this town, something left behind hundreds of years ago by explorers. Many people tried to find it, but nobody succeeded." Nick gulped. "Treasure? Real treasure?" Professor Lewis smiled. "Perhaps, or perhaps something even more valuable. Sometimes knowledge itself is the greatest treasure." Maya pointed to the riddle. "Do you know what 'where silence speaks' means?" The professor thought for a moment. Then he whispered, "There is a hidden room beneath this library. It was built a long time ago. Not many people know about it." Maya's eyes shone. "A hidden room? Can we see it?" Professor Lewis hesitated. Then he nodded. "Follow me." He led them to the back of the library. There, behind a tall bookshelf, was a narrow staircase going down into the basement. The air grew colder as they descended. At the bottom, they found a wooden door with iron hinges. Professor Lewis pushed it open. Inside was a small, dark room with stone walls. On the floor, there was a large stone tile with the same symbol as the book, a circle with a key in the middle. Maya bent down and touched the stone. It was cold and rough. "Is this the key?" she asked. Nick shook his head. "No, I think it's hiding the key." The professor smiled faintly. "Perhaps you are right, young man, but how do we open it?" Maya remembered the riddle, "Follow the path of light and shadows." She looked around. There was only one small window high on the wall, and sunlight was shining through it. The beam of light fell on a dusty bookshelf. "Light and shadows," Maya whispered. She moved toward the beam of light. On the shelf was a stone statue of an owl. She pressed it gently. The stone tile on the floor shifted slightly. A crack appeared in the middle. Slowly, the stone opened like a lid. Inside was a small metal box. Maya lifted it out carefully. The box was heavy, and on the top was engraved the same key symbol. She tried to open it, but it was locked. "A locked box," Arjun muttered. "Of course." Professor Lewis smiled. "Congratulations, children. You have found the first piece of the puzzle, but this is only the beginning." Maya's eyes sparkled. She held the box tightly. She could feel the adventure calling her. "This is just the start," she whispered. Chapter 2. First Clues. Maya carried the locked metal box carefully as they walked back up the stairs from the hidden room. Dust covered her hands, but her eyes were shining with excitement. Nick followed slowly, still a little nervous. "Maya, what if we get into trouble? This feels like something from a movie." Maya grinned. "Exactly. Isn't it exciting?" Professor Lewis smiled gently but said nothing. His mind seemed to be somewhere else, lost in deep thought. When they reached the library hall, Maya placed the box on a table. She traced her fingers over the key symbol engraved on the lid. "There must be a way to open this," she whispered. Nick leaned closer. "Look, there's no lock hole, no keyhole, just this symbol." Professor Lewis adjusted his glasses. "Sometimes locks are not simple. They are hidden. The people who made this box were clever." Maya sat down. "So how do we open it?" The professor pulled the old book closer and flipped through its pages. "Perhaps the answer is in here. Legends say this book was written by explorers. They left riddles to protect what they found." Maya's eyes sparkled. "Riddles again? I love riddles." Nick groaned. "Of course you do. I don't. They make my head hurt." Maya giggled. "Don't worry. That's why you have me." Professor Lewis stopped at a page near the middle of the book. The writing was faded but still readable. He read aloud, slowly. "To unlock the box, seek the place where waters meet. There the stone of memory sleeps, and the key will be revealed." Maya whispered, "The place where waters meet." Nick scratched his head. "What does that mean, waters meeting?" "Maybe a lake," Maya suggested. Professor Lewis shook his head. "No, a lake is just water sitting still. Waters meet usually means two rivers joining together." Maya gasped. "The map! The map in the book showed a triangle near the river." She pulled out the folded map and spread it across the table. Her finger traced the lines of the river. Sure enough, there was a triangle marked right where the small stream joined the big river outside town. "That must be it," Professor Lewis said. "The second clue." Nick groaned again. "So we're going outside town?" Maya nodded with excitement. "Yes! Adventure time!" That afternoon, the three of them set off toward the river. Maya carried the book and the locked box in her backpack. Nick carried a bottle of water and snacks. He always thought about food. The road was long, passing fields of tall grass that swayed in the wind. Birds flew overhead, and the sound of insects filled the air. Nick wiped his forehead. "It's so hot. Why do all adventures happen in the heat?" Maya laughed. "Because heroes don't complain about weather." "I'm not a hero," Nick muttered. "I'm just a guy who should be at home with a cold drink." Professor Lewis chuckled. "Every hero begins by saying they are not one. You will see, Nick." After nearly an hour of walking, they reached the riverbank. The water sparkled under the sun. A small stream joined the main river at this point, making a gentle, swirling sound as the waters met. Maya looked around. "So, where is this stone of memory?" The riverbank was full of rocks. Big ones, small ones, smooth ones. Some were half hidden under plants. Nick sighed. "We're supposed to check every stone. That will take forever." Maya knelt down beside the water. "Not every stone. The riddle says, 'Stone of Memory.' That must mean something special." Professor Lewis nodded. "Look for a stone with markings. Something unusual." They searched for almost half an hour. Maya checked near the water. Nick checked under bushes. Professor Lewis studied the ground carefully. Finally, Maya shouted, "Here! Come here!" Nick and the professor rushed to her. She was pointing at a large flat stone near the river's edge. On its surface, carved deeply into the rock, was the same circle with a key symbol. "This must be it," Maya said, her voice trembling with excitement. Professor Lewis bent down. "Yes, the stone of memory. But what do we do with it?" Nick shrugged. "Maybe lift it?" Maya rolled her eyes. It's huge, we can't lift it. She ran her fingers over the carving. As she pressed the center of the key symbol, there was a faint click. The stone moved slightly, revealing a small hollow space underneath. Inside was a tiny metal key, shining in the sunlight. "The key!" Maya gasped. She picked it up carefully. It was old but strong, with the same circle and stars design on the top. Nick's mouth hung open. So the stone was hiding the key all along. Professor Lewis smiled. "Well done, children. You are learning how to think like explorers." Unlocking the box. Back on the grass, Maya pulled out the locked box. She held the tiny key in her hand. "Ready?" she whispered. Nick swallowed hard. "What if it explodes?" Maya gave him a look. "Seriously, this isn't a movie bomb, it's history." She slid the key into a nearly invisible slot on the side of the box. With a soft click, the lid opened slowly. Inside, wrapped in a piece of cloth, was another piece of parchment. Maya unfolded it. Her eyes widened. Another map! This map was different. It showed the forest outside town, the same circle that she had seen earlier. But this time there were drawings of trees and a cave marked with a red star. Beneath the map was another riddle, written in elegant handwriting. "In the forest deep and old, where shadows dance and secrets hold, seek the cave that hides the flame, and the treasure shall call your name." Maya felt goosebumps on her arms. "The forest, a cave, this is getting better and better." Nick sighed. "Better? You mean scarier. Forests have snakes, and caves have bats, and I don't like either." Maya giggled. "Come on, Nick. Without danger, there's no adventure." Professor Lewis nodded. "The forest is indeed the next step, but it is dangerous. We must prepare carefully." Maya folded the map and placed it safely back into the box. She looked at her friends, her eyes shining with determination. "This is just the beginning. The treasure is waiting for us." Chapter 3. The Hidden Tunnel. The next morning, Maya could barely sit still at breakfast. She wolfed down her toast, grabbed her backpack, and rushed out the door. Today was the day. They were going into the forest. Nick, on the other hand, was less excited. He met Maya at the town square, carrying a flashlight, a rope, and a packet of chips. Maya laughed. "Really, Nick? Chips?" Nick shrugged. "Explorers need food and courage. I have food, so maybe courage will come later." Professor Lewis soon arrived, carrying a walking stick and a small leather bag. His face looked serious. "The forest we're going to is very old," he said. "People say it's full of secrets. But remember, we are not here to play. We are here to follow the map and solve the riddles." Maya nodded eagerly. "Yes, Professor." Nick muttered. "I'd still prefer video games." Entering the forest. The forest was thick with tall trees, their branches weaving together like a roof. Sunlight slipped through in golden lines, making the ground look patchy with light and dark. Birds called from above, and somewhere far away a woodpecker knocked on a tree. "This place is amazing," Maya whispered. She felt like she had stepped into another world. Nick stayed close behind her. "Amazing! It's creepy. Look how dark it is." Professor Lewis studied the map. "The red star marks a cave deep inside. We must follow the old path north." The path was narrow, covered with leaves and roots. They walked carefully, listening to the sounds of the forest. Every crack of a twig made Nick jump. "Relax," Maya said with a smile. "The forest isn't trying to eat you." Nick didn't smile back. Not yet. Strange signs. After about an hour of walking, they noticed something unusual. On the trunk of a huge oak tree, someone had carved the circle with a key symbol. Maya gasped. "Look! The same symbol from the book and the stone." Professor Lewis touched the carving. "This proves we are on the right track. Someone marked the way many years ago." As they walked farther, they found more carvings. On rocks, on fallen logs, even scratched lightly into the dirt. The symbols seemed to guide them. But then, suddenly, they heard a noise. Crunch! Crunch, sound. Someone was stepping on leaves not far away. Maya froze. "Did you hear that?" Nick whispered, "Please tell me that was just a deer." Professor Lewis frowned. "Stay quiet." They listened carefully. The footsteps came closer, then stopped. Silence. Maya's heart pounded. Were they being followed? But after a minute, the sound faded. Whoever, or whatever it was, had gone deeper into the forest. The cave. By midday, they reached a hill covered with vines. At the bottom was a dark opening, a cave. Cold air drifted out, carrying a smell of damp earth and stone. Nick groaned. Of course, a cave. Dark, scary, and probably full of bats. Maya grinned. Exactly what we need. Professor Lewis lit a small lantern. "Stay close to me. Caves can be dangerous if you wander off." They stepped inside. The air grew colder, and their footsteps echoed on the stone floor. Drops of water fell from the ceiling with soft plinks. The walls were rough, but as they went deeper, they noticed something extraordinary. Paintings. Ancient drawings of people, animals, and strange symbols covered the stone. "Wow," Maya whispered. "These must be hundreds of years old." Professor Lewis examined them with shining eyes. "These are explorers' markings. They recorded their journey here. Look, the key symbol again." Nick pointed. "And what's that?" "A flame?" On the wall was a picture of a torch, surrounded by stars. Maya remembered the riddle. "Seek the cave that hides the flame." She turned slowly. This is the right place. The tunnel. Deeper inside, the cave narrowed. They had to crouch as they walked. Finally, the path ended at a stone wall. Nick groaned. "Great, a dead end. Can we go home now?" Maya studied the wall. In the middle, carved into the rock, was a small hole in the shape of a circle. "Wait! What if the key fits here?" she said. She took out the tiny metal key they had found under the stone of memory. Carefully, she slid it into the hole. Click! The wall rumbled. Slowly it slid open, revealing a hidden tunnel behind it. A cold breeze rushed out. Maya's eyes sparkled. "Yes! A secret tunnel!" Nick slapped his forehead. "Why am I not surprised?" Professor Lewis raised his lantern. "Stay close. We don't know what lies ahead." Inside the tunnel. The tunnel was narrow and long. Their footsteps echoed as they walked. Strange markings decorated the walls. Stars, arrows, and words, in a language Maya couldn't understand. "Professor, what do these mean?" she asked. He studied them. "They are warnings. These explorers wanted to keep intruders away." Nick gulped. "Warnings? About what?" Before anyone could answer, they heard something. Drip. Drip! Water dripped from the ceiling, but then another sound. Rustle. Scrape. Something was moving in the darkness ahead. Nick froze. "Please tell me that's the wind." Suddenly, glowing eyes appeared in the lantern light. Dozens of them. "Bats!" Maya shouted as the creatures swooped past them. Nick screamed and ducked. "I hate bats! I knew this would happen!"
The bats flew around in a wild storm, then disappeared into another opening high in the cave. Silence returned. Maya laughed nervously. That was exciting. Nick glared. That was terrifying. Professor Lewis shook his head with a smile. You both handled it well. Now, let's move on. The stone door. At the end of the tunnel, they reached a massive stone door. On its surface were 4 circles arranged in a square. Each circle had strange markings. Maya frowned. How do we open this? Professor Lewis pulled out the book again. Perhaps another riddle will help. He flipped through the pages until he found the right one. He read aloud, 4 circles guard the way. Each must turn to face the day. Match the stars with heaven's line, and the secret shall be thine. Maya studied the door. Match the stars. Heaven's line. It must be about the sun or the sky. Nick tilted his head. But we're underground. No sun here. Maya thought hard. Then she noticed something. The markings on the circles looked like constellations. Wait! These are star patterns. Look, this one is Orion. This is the Big Dipper. Professor Lewis smiled proudly. Excellent observation, Maya. If we turn the circles to match the real night sky, the door will open. But how do we know the right positions? Nick asked. Maya pulled out her phone. Easy, star map app. She quickly compared the constellations on the screen with the carvings. One by one, they turned the stone circles. Click, click, click. With the last turn, the entire door rumbled and slid open. A gust of cold air swept over them. Behind the door was another chamber, larger and darker than anything they had seen so far. Maya's eyes widened. This is it! The treasure must be close!
Chapter 4. Danger and Discovery. The massive stone door groaned as it slid open. Dust filled the air, and Maya coughed, waving her hand in front of her face. Behind the door stretched a vast chamber. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. Stalactites hung down like sharp teeth. Their lantern light flickered across the floor, revealing cracked stones and broken statues. Maya whispered, "This place, it feels like a tomb." Nick hugged himself. Great! First bats, now tombs. What's next? Ghosts? Professor Lewis raised his lantern higher. His eyes were shining, full of wonder. This chamber has been hidden for centuries. Few eyes have ever seen it. They stepped inside carefully. Their footsteps echoed, bouncing off the stone walls. Every sound felt louder, heavier. As they walked, Maya noticed something unusual. The floor had several square tiles that looked different from the others, smoother, almost polished. She crouched down. These tiles, they look strange. Professor Lewis nodded gravely. You're right to be cautious. In old places like this, unusual stones often mean danger. Nick's eyes widened. Danger? You mean like traps? Before anyone could answer, he accidentally stepped forward. Click. The sound was sharp. Suddenly, arrows shot out of the wall, whistling past their heads and hitting the opposite stone. Nick screamed and jumped back. Ah! I almost died! Maya pulled him behind a pillar. Nick, be careful! Nick's face was pale. I didn't sign up for this. I thought we were looking for treasure, not dodging arrows like in a movie. Professor Lewis touched his shoulder. You must learn to move carefully. Danger and treasure often live in the same place. Maya studied the floor. We need to avoid the polished tiles. Step only on the rough ones. Slowly, carefully they crossed the chamber, stepping only on safe stones. Their hearts raced until they finally reached the other side. Just as Maya was about to breathe in relief, a new sound echoed through the chamber. Clap, clap, clap. Slow, mocking claps. From the shadows stepped a tall man dressed in dark clothes, his boots crunching on the stone floor. His eyes glimmered like steel, and a sly smile curled on his lips. "Well, well," he said in a smooth, cold voice. "Looks like I'm not the only one who found the old book." Maya's heart sank. "Who are you?" The man bowed slightly. "Call me Victor, explorer, adventurer, and collector of rare treasures." Professor Lewis frowned. "I know you. Victor Hale. You've stolen artifacts from museums before. You're nothing but a thief." Victor laughed softly. "Thief? No, Professor. I simply believe treasures belong to those clever enough to take them." He pointed at the box in Maya's backpack. "Hand it over." Maya stepped back. "Never." Victor's smile widened. "Stubborn girl. I like that. But you should know I don't play nice when treasure is involved." Two large men stepped out from behind him, his assistants, carrying ropes and tools. Nick whispered nervously, "Oh no, we're in trouble." The chase. Victor snapped his fingers. "Get the box." The two men charged forward. Maya grabbed Nick's hand. "Run!" They dashed into a side tunnel, their footsteps echoing wildly. The lantern light swung in Professor Lewis's hand as he ran behind them. The tunnel twisted and turned. The sound of Victor's men chasing grew louder. Maya's chest burned, but she didn't stop. "Left!" Professor Lewis shouted. They turned sharply and found themselves at a stone staircase going down. They hurried down, but suddenly, crash! The steps crumbled behind them, collapsing into a pit. Dust filled the air. "We can't go back now," Maya coughed. Nick groaned. "Fantastic. Trapped with thieves behind us and who knows what ahead." Professor Lewis steadied his lantern. "We must go forward." The underground lake. The tunnel opened into a breathtaking sight, a huge underground lake. The water shimmered like black glass, reflecting the lantern light. Stalagmites rose from the water like spears. A narrow stone path led across, broken in several places. Maya whispered, "It's beautiful." Nick frowned. "It's terrifying." Victor's angry voice echoed from the tunnel behind. "You can't escape me!" Maya clenched her fists. "We have to cross." They stepped onto the stone path carefully. The gaps were wide, forcing them to jump. Nick nearly slipped, but Maya grabbed his hand just in time. "Got you." "Don't let go," he squeaked. Finally, they reached the other side. Ahead was another carved door, smaller, but decorated with golden designs. Maya touched it. This must be it. Professor Lewis read the inscription aloud. "Only the brave shall pass. Speak the truth, or remain outside forever." The truth test. There was no handle, no keyhole, just a flat surface with the key symbol. Maya frowned. "What does it mean? Speak the truth." Professor Lewis whispered, "Perhaps the door only opens when someone confesses something true, something honest from the heart." Maya thought hard. Then she stepped forward. I'm scared. I want to be brave, but I'm scared of failing." Nothing happened. Nick hesitated. Then he whispered, I pretend I don't care about this adventure, but the truth is, I don't want to be left behind. I want to be part of it too." The door rumbled softly, as if reacting. Professor Lewis placed his hand on the door. "And I spent my whole life chasing history, but sometimes I forgot to live in the present. That is my truth." With a deep groan, the golden door slid open. Maya gasped. It worked! They stepped inside. The chamber beyond glowed with a soft golden light. In the center stood an ancient pedestal, and on it rested a small chest covered with jewels. Around it, torches burned with blue flames, though no one had lit them for centuries. Maya's heart raced. The treasure! Nick's mouth hung open. It's real. Professor Lewis whispered, incredible, untouched for hundreds of years. But before they could move closer, Victor's voice thundered from behind. Thank you for opening the way for me. He and his men stepped into the chamber, grinning. Victor raised a gun. Now, hand it over. Chapter 5. The Treasure. The chamber glowed with the strange blue fire. Shadows danced on the walls as Maya, Nick, and Professor Lewis stood frozen. At the centre of the room, the jewelled chest sparkled like a fallen star. But Victor stood between them and the treasure, his pistol raised steadily. Victor smirked. You've done well. Brave little explorers, unlocking doors and solving riddles. But the prize belongs to me now. Nick's voice shook. You can't just take it. We worked for this. Victor chuckled. Worked? You call running and screaming work? No, boy. I'm the one with the courage to take what others fear. Maya clenched her fists. That's not courage. That's greed. Victor tilted his head, amused. Big words for a small girl. He motioned toward his men. Open the chest. The two men stepped forward and placed their hands on the jewelled box. The gems sparkled as if alive. Slowly, carefully, they lifted the heavy lid. Inside, instead of gold and coins, there lay a single scroll wrapped in golden silk. Victor's smile faded slightly. What is this? Where's the treasure? Professor Lewis's eyes widened with excitement. It's even better than gold. That scroll could be an ancient map or wisdom from a forgotten civilization. Victor snatched it up, tearing the silk. He unrolled the parchment roughly, expecting riches. But the scroll was filled with strange writing, symbols, and drawings of the sun and stars. Victor's face twisted with disappointment. This is nothing but old paper. Maya stepped closer. No, it's knowledge. That's the real treasure. Professor Lewis' voice trembled with reverence. These are astronomical calculations, maps of stars, movements of planets. This could change what we know about history. The people who built this place understood the heavens far beyond their time. Nick whispered, So the treasure isn't money, it's knowledge. Maya's eyes glowed. Exactly. The true key is wisdom. Victor laughed bitterly. Knowledge doesn't pay bills. Knowledge doesn't make you powerful. He waved the scroll. I'll sell it to the highest bidder. Let the fools in the museums argue about its meaning while I get rich. Professor Lewis stepped forward, his voice firm.
If you sell it, the world loses its truth. Some treasures belong to all of humanity, not just one man.
Victor aimed his gun at the professor. Spare me your speeches. Step aside. Maya's plan. Maya's mind raced. She couldn't let Victor take the scroll. She glanced at Nick, whose knees were shaking, and whispered quickly, Distract him. Nick's eyes widened. What? Trust me, Maya whispered back. Nick swallowed hard. Then, with all the courage he could gather, he shouted, Hey, Victor! You call yourself brave, but you hide behind a gun. Without it, you're nothing but a coward. Victor's eyes snapped to Nick, rage flashing in them. What did you say? In that split second, Maya grabbed a loose stone from the floor and hurled it at Victor's hand. Clang! The pistol flew from his grip, clattering across the floor. Now! Maya yelled. She and Nick lunged forward, tackling Victor's men before they could react. Professor Lewis dashed toward the fallen pistol and kicked it into the shadows. Victor roared with anger. You little rats! Suddenly the chamber shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The blue flames flickered wildly. Professor Lewis's face turned pale. The temple is collapsing. One of Victor's men screamed, Boss, the ceiling! But before he could finish, a massive stone crashed down, blocking the exit tunnel. Victor grabbed the scroll tightly. This is mine. I'll die before I give it up. Maya shouted over the rumbling. If we don't work together, we'll all die here. Victor's eyes blazed. Better buried with treasure than poor without it. The ground split, and part of the floor fell into darkness. Nick screamed, barely leaping aside. Maya grabbed his arm. Stay with me. As rocks tumbled, Professor Lewis spotted a small opening near the far wall, an escape path. There, quickly, he shouted. They ran toward it, dodging falling stones. But Victor was still clutching the scroll, refusing to let go. Professor Lewis turned back to him. Victor, leave it! Save yourself! Victor snarled, clutching the parchment to his chest. Never! Another tremor shook the chamber. A massive boulder broke loose from above. Victor! Maya screamed, but it was too late. The stone crashed down, and when the dust cleared, Victor was gone, buried under the weight of his own greed. The scroll lay torn, partly sticking out from the rubble, safe from being completely crushed. Professor Lewis quickly grabbed it. We must go! The three of them squeezed through the narrow escape tunnel, crawling on their hands and knees as the temple roared and collapsed behind them. Nick panted. I hate crawling. Maya pushed him forward. Move, or we'll be part of the temple forever. Finally, after what felt like forever, they tumbled out into the night air. The jungle was alive with the sound of birds startled by the tremors. Behind them, the ground shuddered one last time, and the cave entrance sealed shut with falling rocks. They lay on the grass, breathing hard, staring up at the starry sky. Maya whispered, We made it. Nick groaned, barely. Professor Lewis held the damaged scroll close. His eyes were wet with emotion. This is the real treasure. We must protect it, share its knowledge with the world. Maya smiled softly. We didn't just find a treasure. We found the truth. Nick sat up, still trembling. I almost died, like 20 times, but I'm glad I came. Maya laughed. See? You're braver than you think. He smiled nervously. Maybe, but next time let's hunt for pizza instead of treasure. They all laughed under the stars. Epilogue. A new beginning. Weeks later, back at the university, the scroll was carefully restored. Scholars from around the world came to study it. The writings revealed knowledge of the stars, navigation, and even predictions of eclipses centuries ahead of their time. Maya and Nick walked into the museum where the scroll was now displayed behind glass. Nick scratched his head. So, no gold, no jewels, just paper? Maya nudged him. Not just paper, wisdom. Knowledge is the greatest treasure. Professor Lewis joined them, smiling proudly, and you two helped bring it to light. The world will remember this discovery. Maya looked at the glowing case, her heart full. Adventure had changed her. She wasn't just an ordinary girl anymore. She was someone who had faced fear, solved mysteries, and learned that true courage was in the heart. Nick sighed dramatically. Well, that was fun. Now, how about that pizza? Maya laughed. Deal, but no traps this time. They walked out together, the night full of stars, guiding them toward new adventures still waiting in the world. Wow, what an incredible journey we just had. Maya, Nick and Professor Lewis showed us that real treasure is not always gold or jewels. Sometimes the greatest treasure is knowledge, courage and friendship. I hope you enjoyed this mystery adventure and, more importantly, you learned some new English words and expressions along the way. Remember, stories are one of the best ways to practice listening, understand new vocabulary, and improve your fluency. Now it's your turn. Tell me in the comments, what was your favourite part of the story? And also, try using 3 new words you learned today in your own sentences. If you liked this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and click the bell so you never miss the next adventure. Thank you for listening. Thank you for learning. And remember, every story you hear in English takes you one step closer to becoming confident and fluent. See you in the next video.